This is section 5.1, part 5. I need to simplify this, okay? Look at the big picture. The main thing I see is that I have a fraction, ugly fraction, but a fraction, raised to an exponent. The property that appears that way, in the same basic pattern, is property number 4, okay? So I'm going to use property number 4, and I apply this third power to the entire numerator and the entire denominator separately. So this becomes 5a squared b to the 5th raised to the 3rd over c to the 6th to the 3rd. Okay? Now essentially I have two problems. I need to simplify the top problem and I need to simplify the bottom problem. In the top, I have three things multiplied together, all raised to the 3rd power. What I have here is property number 3. So in the top, I'm going to use property number 3. And it says I take this 3 and I apply it to each of them. So I have 5 to the 3rd power, a squared to the 3rd power, b to the 5th to the 3rd power, over. Now in the bottom, I have, it's a little bit simpler, I just have an exponent raised to an exponent. That's property number 2. So in this case, I multiply exponents and I get c to the 18th. Okay. Now let's simplify the top again. 5 to the 3rd power. We actually just figured that out over here, but with a negative instead. If you're multiplying negative 5 times itself 3 times, you're going to get a negative because 3 negatives multiplied is a negative. Here you're multiplying 5 times itself 3 times, and you get 125. So now here, something squared to the 3rd power, that's property number 2. Make that a little bit clearer. So a squared 3rd, multiply those together. A to the 6th, b to the 5 times 3 would be 15, over c to the 18th. Okay, now in this section, you're not going to need to go any further. In the next section, it is possible that you have the same variable on the top at the bottom and you will need to keep going. So go ahead and try to make it a habit to double check that. Make sure you don't have any repeated bases anywhere. Okay. For this one, the last one in this section. First of all, there's a couple of things that are understood. Remember that this is a multiplication, just like on the problem just to the left of it. This right here is an understood -1, okay? And if you needed this, there's a number on the outside. There's always an understood first power. That's not so important on this problem, but it is there, okay? So let's look at what we have. I'm just going to break all this up. Right here, I have things multiplied together raised to the 2nd power. So I'm going to be using property number, which number is it? Number 3. Okay. So I have, I'm just going to break it all up. -1 times a to the 4th times b to the 5th. This is just going to make it a little bit easier to see. All right, now the square goes here. Remember how I said with a negative number, you have to be really careful? You're going to see why. Okay, so now I have a bunch of things here. I'm going to simplify here. These are going to stay the same. There's not really anything I can do here. I can simplify over here. So I'm going to recopy this. Okay. Now -6 in parentheses squared. Okay. Open parentheses, -6, and then raise it to the 2nd power. And you get 36. Now why do I say it's so important to use parentheses? Look what happens if I don't. It's -36. This is a notational difference. I would love to give you a why this is true, There is no why. Somebody decided long ago that this is the way it was. It's stuck. We're stuck with it. Either remember to put the parentheses and use your calculator every time, or just memorize this. This is 36. Okay, and now on these two, we have powers raised to powers, which would be property number 2. So multiply these exponents, and that's going to be a to the 6th, b to the 6th. Now I'm going to rearrange things so pieces are side by side, the ones I can combine. -1 times 36 times a to the 4th times a to the 6th times b to the 5th times b to the 6th. Okay. If you multiply here, here, and here. For these two, I'm going to be using property number 1. I have the same base multiplied together. I'm going to add those exponents. So this is going to be property number 1. But first, -1 times 36 is -36. Add these, a to the 10th. Add again, b to the 11th.